Welcome everyone to Conversations Worth Having with Michelle Falcone and me, Adrian Starks, and we are excited to have you back for a new Ed Talk with a special guest, Thérèse Cator. And I want to say first, Michelle may not remember this, but last time we talked, I said Thérèse was going to light the screen up. She was going to set it on fire, and I was going to have a fire extinguisher around me. Well, guys, I didn't do that because that's not safe, so I brought some paper towels so I can dab my forehead a little bit here, but I'm super excited to have Thérèse Cator on, and I just want to share with you guys the aim of what we're doing here. Through Conversations Worth Having, we want to tear down the walls, to build the bridges, to have better conversations, to elevate humanity. And I'm excited to talk about how to do this tonight with Thérèse Cator. And Michelle, how are you feeling right now?
Oh, I'm so excited too, Adrian. Yeah. And I see that you've got your little towel there. You're probably already a little bit sweaty from what we've been talking about.
I'm going to do this. Yeah. Say it.
Yeah. Tonight is going to be an incredible conversation, very insightful. And I feel really confident that we're all going to experience some really great learning tonight. Yes. And walk away with a new perspective and I think some tangibles that can help us move forward in different ways for sure. I feel really confident. Oh, can you hear me fine?
Yes.
Okay, I just had a little bit of feedback there, so good. I want to start with welcoming Thérèse. It's such an honor, absolute honor to have you here with us tonight. So Thérèse is...
I was going to say it's an honor to be here. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. I want to start by sharing that Thérèse is a dear friend of mine. We actually met when we were doing our coaching training at the Ford Institute, which was about 7 years ago. There's just something about that number 7. Yeah, so it was 7 years ago. And we were paired together. So we did our practicum, practicing our coaching techniques, and we specialized in shadow work. So we got to really connect on such a deep level. And then that just like sparked into this real soul sister connection. Yeah. So it's just so beautiful to see you transform into the woman that you are showing up in the world. Honestly, Thérèse, I just see that you are so aligned with your purpose and helping so many. So I really want to start with thanking you. Just thanking you for the work that you're doing. It's so needed.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Thank you, Michelle. And I'm like getting a little tears in my eyes, and but really, thank you so much. And I just remember when we were partnered together, one of the things you would say, "You're so powerful," and I was like, "Oh, okay." "You're so this," and I was like, "Oh, okay." You were always affirming so many things about me and speaking it into reality. And, at the time, I didn't know exactly what all the intersections of, I had already been coaching and doing a lot of work for a number of years, and I didn't know how all these different things were going to actually come together. And I think it's still a journey, but it's more so flashed. Is that Chloe?
Oh,
Chloe must be part of this conversation.
Chloe's like, yeah.
She's agreeing.
Yeah, Chloe's like, yes. Yeah, and I didn't know Adrian was so funny. So I was like, okay, we're in for a treat.
Oh,
so thank you for having me, you both. I'm so glad to be here.
Well, we're so happy to have you here. And just to add on what you're saying, it is such an ongoing journey. And I was always just speaking what I saw. And it just, it's so amazing to see 7 years later, because I remember always seeing this powerful healer. Remember, I would say to you, "You're such a healer," I see this wisdom, and you know, you're this healer, and now here you are 7 years later in the role of a powerful healer, sharing your wisdom, your experience, and it's all from the heart. Yeah, beautiful. So I'm going to start with sharing with our guests a little bit about you so they know what you're up to. Thérèse is the founder of Embodied Black Girl, which is a global community that creates a safe space for Black women and women of color to heal from intergenerational trauma and racialized stress and embody liberation. Thérèse is devoted to guiding visionary people of all backgrounds to remember their wholeness, reclaim their radiance, and untether from colonial conditioning in life and leadership in the name of healing and liberation for all of us. So Thérèse, that actually just is the perfect segue to take us into the first question of what exactly is colonial conditioning?
I said to you earlier, I love how the questions pop up. It's like, oh, that's nifty. But colonial conditioning, I think we have to kind of go a little bit back to colonization. So colonization is when one country takes control over another country or another region to extract riches. So we are all products of colonization in one shape or form. Either we've benefited from it. So many folks who identify as white have benefited from colonization. Mm-hmm. And for especially Black folks, people who are descendants of enslaved people, Africans, we've received the short end of the stick, right? We've lost a lot due to colonization. You know, we've been murdered. Also, indigenous people have been murdered. Their land was stolen. So because of all of that, I think colonial conditioning is something that impacts all of us, no matter what our race is, but it impacts us differently based on our identity. So for people who identify as BIPOC, Black, Indigenous, people of color, or people of color, that manifests as internalized anti-Blackness, internalized racism, basically playing the role, playing the role of the oppressor, even when you're oppressed. And I have to say, you know, for our ancestors, many of our ancestors, they had to do this to survive, right? Mm-hmm. They had to give up their religion. They had to give up their language. They had to give up, like, it's everything, where they, you know, their native land. And when I'm saying our ancestors, I want to be really specific. People who are descendants of enslaved Africans had to give up, our ancestors had to give up a lot. And because of that, that conditioning for how we've had to survive, it continues to exist. There's a certain system of survival that I think so many Black folks can talk about, of like how you've learned to survive in a white world. Right. And some of those things are like, okay, you know, code switching, which is basically when you're with your Black friends, you talk and behave in a certain way. And then when you are, let's say, with your coworkers who are white and other races, you behave a different way. So this is all for survival. And actually, this is a trauma response. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So really, when we go into like, what is colonial conditioning, it truly is a trauma response. Mm-hmm. You know, so much of it is a trauma response to the ways that our culture, our language, our spiritual practices have been stripped, stolen, erased. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and it just doesn't need to be like that any longer, right? It's yeah.
The whole
Well,
idea.
I think it's like depends on where you live, right? And what access you have. And because I don't want to negate, like for me, I live on the East Coast in a liberal place right outside of New York City. I grew up in New York City.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't want to say that racism doesn't exist here, because it does. However, I don't live like some of my clients, they live in places where it's like a Ku Klux Klan member, KKK member lives, oh, they live over there. I can't, that's not my experience, but I know that there are people living that reality in different places, in the US and Canada and all over the world.
Yeah, so that instinct for survival is still really alive.
Yeah, we all want to survive. Like, what would you do to survive? Like, if there's, if you live in a small town and there's just like one place to work, like you do, and you're like the only Black person, you do what you have to do to survive. Like, I don't look at this in terms of like blaming anyone, but I think with that deeper understanding, what we can do is start having conversations and creating space so that we can move towards decolonization.
Yes.
And with that, there are still countries that are still colonized, that are still ruled by the UK, by the US. So they're not completely independent and free. So it's literally still happening in so many ways.
Yeah. Well, this past year on the media, so much has been exposed to show people how much this is still going on, which, is a positive thing that it's been exposed so that we're aware and can see how much this is going on. Because like you said, that depending on where you're living, it might just, not really be there, right? Not much anyhow, not to a place that you're feeling unsafe in that survival mode. So this is what you're explaining with the colonial conditioning, that the trauma that people are reacting from, or I guess responding from, is intergenerational trauma. Am I right? That's passed on?
I think that does play a role in intergenerational trauma. And I see the question, what is intergenerational trauma? Yeah. And it does play a role in intergenerational trauma. So let's break that down into what is trauma. So trauma, it's basically when we cannot process a stressful event.
Right.
That's really what trauma is. We can't process a stressful event. And there have been so many stressors throughout history. So enslavement, genocide, war crimes. And there's many studies, and so scientifically it's backed up that intergenerational trauma, it's passed on through the womb, right? It's passed on through the womb. So if the mother is experiencing high stress, adrenaline is way up, that is impacting the baby. And what it's been shown is that epigenetically, this can happen over as far back as like 17 generations.
Wow.
So it's being passed on. And so we may not even know if something that's impacting us now is something that impacted our ancestors. Like, what are those things? So intergenerational trauma is just saying that, it doesn't stop necessarily when the trauma stopped. And in this case, the trauma that we're talking about is still happening today. So there's actually no respite. The body doesn't get to rest and digest and be like, I'm safe now.
Yeah.
Because that's how we also are able to, we're able to heal trauma is by creating safety.
Right.
So we need safety in order to heal. However, the safety is not being created right now. It's constantly a high stress, you're constantly on hypervigilance and, okay, what's going to happen next? And obviously with everyone who we've experienced, we're still in the middle of the pandemic, right? And again, that elevated our stress.
Right.
Like, what's happening next? Something else in the news besides, what was happening politically, at least in the US.
Yes. Oh my
which
God.
has impacted the world.
Absolutely.
Right?
Yeah. So, it is the whole world.
This trauma that you're talking about, Thérèse, it really resonates with me because when I'm thinking about it, you're saying it goes back 17 generations. So for our audience listening, that's a lot of history that one person can bear. And when we talk about stress, when we talk about what people are feeling, and I'm just going to say this, some people don't get it. And they're like, I don't know why you're feeling this way. Don't you have everything that you've always wanted? And part of this feeling of, especially when it comes to Black Americans, Black people, or even people of color, this inadequacy, this feeling of a loss of meaning, a loss of place, is coming back from this intergenerational trauma. And you just struck a chord with me because there are some feelings that sometimes I have. And I'm wondering, why am I feeling this way? Where did this feeling come from? And so this is something I think is important for the audience today. If you're feeling a certain way, it could be stemming from something generations back. And so how, if someone's feeling this way, what can they do about this, Thérèse? If they're feeling a certain way, should they talk to someone about it, or how do they go about helping heal that wound?
Sometimes, depending on what it is, it can require a therapeutic container. So working one-on-one with a therapist. And sometimes clients come into me and I tell them, okay, you also need to work with a therapist as well, so that they can guide you too. So, I also think what we can do is decrease our stress and come into states of as much as possible, because part of the work is that we have to mobilize to change, right? We're mobilizing, we want to create change. However, we can't be at this level all the way up here 24/7.
No.
Right.
We need to also have moments where we're able to be in really restful states. And for Black folks, I know that can be really difficult. Like, I tell my clients to rest, and they're like, oh my gosh, how am I supposed to do that? Because when we look intergenerationally, we have not been allowed to rest. Especially for, just being really specific, for Black folks, we have been the laborers, the labor, enslaved people. Yeah. So rest is a dangerous thing if you think about it ancestrally. If your master found someone resting, what would happen? It would most likely die.
Yeah.
So rest. I think especially rest is resistance, especially for Black people. Rest is resistance. We all need rest, but there's the rest that we need that really is part of resistance. And really honoring that and breaking that chain by saying, I actually deserve to rest. And also, I think it's also about examining all the different areas of our lives where we might feel disconnected. That sense, what you were talking about, that's like a sense of not belonging. I know many people, I haven't had a chance to go yet, but I know many people who traveled back to the motherland and just had a spiritual experience. And so it can mean something like that. Like it could really mean reconnecting with what was lost. And obviously it can never be regained in the same way, but there can be a connection. And I actually want to say, because I think it's important to say that because intergenerational trauma exists, that also means intergenerational wisdom and healing exists as well. So there's healing that is actually encoded in our DNA, that is passed down in our DNA, that is passed down intergenerationally. So even something as humming, as maybe singing a song from your lineage, from your ancestry, can reconnect you to that sense of self. Like I just remember my mom, you know, she's always like rocking back and forth and humming. It's like, it's a thing. And it doesn't matter where, you know, if you're someone who's been, you know, a Black person who's been impacted by chattel slavery, you'll find these things like humming and singing. That's ancestral medicine. And we kind of like brush it off, right? And just like move on. What's the next productivity? What's the next project? What's the next thing? When what we need to do is slow down.
Right.
And in slowing down, we're able to remember. In slowing down, we're able to say, oh, okay, I can take up a little bit more space. I can rest. I can heal. It's your birthright to heal.
Yeah.
Ooh, okay. All right.
And you have to slow down in order to.
Good one. It's your birthright to heal.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
That hit me hard right there. Wow. So we've talked about colonial conditioning, which impacts everybody, not just one, but everyone as a whole. And we talked about intergenerational trauma, and I'm really pleased with what you said about this, Thérèse, about it being a stress response, and also to how we can actually heal ourselves. With systemic racism going on right now and all that's surrounding it, can we talk a little bit about systemic racism now, and what are some of the systems that support it? And is systemic racism, does it come from colonial conditioning that spills into that kind of system, or is it something different?
I mean, yes, we can trace systemic racism from colonialism. This is how it was all founded and created, right? And it's just evolved, like colonialism has evolved to like capitalism, but in so many ways. So racism, so taking out the systemic racism is when someone is impacted by racism, being discriminated, being marginalized because of your race on the individual basis, right? On an individual basis. So I think that's important to understand, because people think like racism. Yes, there's individual racism. Like you could go down the street, someone says something racist or does something racist to you, or prevents you from having a job. Systemic racism is baked in. It's backed up by policy. It's backed up by laws.
Okay.
That then marginalizes and disenfranchises a whole group of people.
Right.
So in this case, Black folks.
Yeah.
So when you have certain laws like here in the US, like redlining that occurred, where it prevented banks from financing loans, and they had physical maps that they drew around neighborhoods, like literally the red line. So if you were within that red line, you know, or you're within a Black neighborhood, your property value didn't go up. You weren't allowed to basically buy outside of those areas. That's what redlining is. So there's so many examples. Like you can literally go down a list of the examples of how systemically a group of people have been disenfranchised. And in America, it's been Black folks at the bottom of the totem pole. Obviously, it impacts Indigenous people, it impacts people of color at varying degrees, but who it mostly impacts is Black folks, because we were the labor. And, you know, so things even like that were deemed as positive, like the war on drugs, the war on drugs back in the 80s, which, you know, I don't know if you've read all the things that have come out saying that basically it wasn't a real war, right? It wasn't a real, there was no war on drugs. It was really to imprison specifically Black men. And that also led to the breakdown. I mean, so many things led to that, but all of these have also led to the breakdown of Black families.
Yeah.
Right. And creating all these like racist tropes, racist stereotypes. So because of that. So there's many things that have systemically marginalized one group. So that's what systemic racism is, when it's system, and it's in every system. So it's in the prison industrial complex, it shows up in the business world, it shows up in education. It's everything. It's in everything because it's within the system.
Yeah.
It's true.
It's within institutions.
So do you have any advice to share, like how and what we can do to create changes in the system?
It's going to be, I think it's going to take a lot of people really understanding, because some people don't even understand what it is. They're like, what? It's so baked in. It's been like this for hundreds and hundreds of years it's like, it's the air we breathe.
They don't know any different, right? You don't know what you don't know. So when this has been all you know, it just seems normal.
Yeah. And yet it's like there's a not knowing, I feel, you know, specifically for white folks, the not knowing, and then of like something is off. And it's like almost like not wanting to know, because I feel like folks know, like there's been, and very few have not known that there's some advantage. There's some weird, like, you know, advantage that's always happening, you know? And why is it? And why is it that this group of people have such a hard time, you know, quote unquote, rising, right? And those racist tropes, such as
I've always seen it, Thérèse. Just
right, yeah.
As a white woman, I've always seen it. I've always been so aware of it, and it's heartbreaking, really. You know, it's I'm just allowing myself to go to that place of knowing that and seeing it throughout my whole life.
That's what it has to do. It has to break folks' hearts.
Yeah.
And beyond breaking the heart, I feel like it has to bring people to their knees, because it's murder. That's what's happening. It's not just like, oh, you know, it's really murder. Like people are being murdered.
Yeah.
Because of that. And I know you feel it. And I know we've had these conversations. And at the same time, there's the foundation of racism is built on that Black people are not human.
Yes.
So the heartbreak, you know, of like really to really understand that there's a very deep belief that Black folks are not human. And what had to be lost in order to hold that belief for a white person? What had to be lost? Like, what did you have to, and I'm saying you, because I just see you, like, what did you have to be disconnected from? And I'll just give you the answer. It's your own humanity.
Yeah.
So when you reconnect back to that humanity, I feel it brings you to your knees. You can't take it anymore.
Yeah.
Because that's the true shadow work.
I agree.
Like, in having done the, part of the work that I've been trained in, one of the things is shadow work. And I remember there was something that was like not sitting well. Like, I've been just going around with it within me. And what really came up was that for white folks, the shadow work is this. Yeah. This is the deepest shadow work, and it's your work to do.
Yeah. Because when you are connected to your own humanity, you can't look the other way.
No.
It's impossible.
You can't look the other way.
Because it just is so horrific and so disturbing what you feel that it's just not humanly possible. Right? So it's, and I guess right now, as we're talking about this, it's becoming aware to me of the difference of why some white people are more in tune with this, feel it, recognize it, to people that aren't. And really what it is the more connected you are to, being present and being now just, more connected rather than disconnected and busy and all caught up in your story and your stuff and your life. You're just so busy that you can't possibly see that.
Thérèse,
right?
you mentioned this too. You said that. Yeah, well, Thérèse just said this. She said that, it's what people don't want to know. And I want to stress that fact, because there's a lot of people out there, they know what's going on. They have seen it multiple times, but yet they turn their head because it's not a part of their world, out of sight, out of mind. Whereas the thing, it's not out of sight. It's on plain TV. It's in people's lives. And the minute that we can start thinking about what we don't know and what we need to know, and merge those two, then things can change. And I wanted to just say a quick comment here from Wendy Meston. Great comment, by the way. She says, it is heartbreakingly sad. Even the BLM movement is being turned on its head into something it isn't. What do you guys think about that? Great comment, Wendy.
Yeah, it's great to have you here with us, Wendy. She's lovely.
Yeah, it is. It is. And I think it's something that we can see going back historically. Anytime there's been any kind of mobilization within the Black community, Black Panthers, go down the list, it's always thwarted. It's always there's always some way that they try to destroy it. I say they, and I feel like the system, right? Even the government, because it's kind of like, okay, we need things to open up, go back as usual. Everyone go back to work, put your head down, do what you're supposed to do, and not really focus on bringing the next level of change. Kind of like have last year be this blip and then, okay, go back into the matrix. But we've like, what's the pill? The red pill or the blue pill? But whatever pill it is, we've taken that pill and we can't go back. Like, we can't go back. We have seen the matrix.
Yeah, that's the good news.
Yeah,
that's the good news.
Some people are choosing not to see the matrix, or just in denial. I feel like they see the matrix, but there is a denial because it also requires the ability to lose your identity.
Right.
And that's one of the things. Part of belonging is having an identity, having a very strong connection to identity. So all of these things that we're talking about, for some people, it really shakes the foundation. But what it is, it's like, okay, you're in a house of cards. Like, there is no foundation. This is a house of cards, but it's like people are trying to like hold up the cards. It's impossible to hold up a house of cards. It's going to come down.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that just comes from fear, the fear of change, I guess, and unknown. Yeah. There's it's coming down though, and I really feel that we all just need to come together and find ways of, I like what you say, Thérèse, of weaving the new world. Weaving the new world. What exactly does the new world look like to you? This new world that we're weaving?
Yeah, one where we are truly liberated. That's really, where we are truly free, where we are truly free, and all of us. So one of my favorite quotes by Audre Lorde is basically, we're not free until we're all free. If one person is unfree, then no one is free, right? So our freedom is interwoven, it's interlocked with one another. So in order to weave the new world, it's having conversations like this, because I feel that actually these conversations are not happening enough. I feel like it's almost like sweeping it under the rug. And then from there, it's doing the internal work as well as the dismantling work. So
Right.
that can look like getting involved while you're doing it, because now I think some people are like, oh, I'm going to just focus on the internal work and meditate all day. Yeah, okay. I think we have to strike a balance, because systemic racism is not going to end through just like sitting down on and meditating on your zazzles. It's not going to happen like that. There needs to be policy change. There needs to be, protests, calling officials, voting. I mean, right now, just last week in Georgia, they just enacted a series. They signed a bill, basically, that makes it harder for Black, Indigenous, and people of color to vote. Mm-hmm. So right now, as we speak, exactly. But as we're talking, we're like, oh, okay, it's a little sigh of relief. We have a new administration here in the United States. We're breathing a sigh of relief, but at the same time, that sigh of relief is being threatened, right? So that it only lasts 4 years. So we have to also do that dismantling work, which means getting involved locally in however that looks like for us locally. And I know, no matter where you live in the world, and supporting the Black folks, Indigenous folks, and people of color within our communities, and elevating those voices within our individual communities. Because, for example, you're in DC, and the voices that need to be elevated there that are impacted by systemic racism, by racism, those are the folks too to also talk to, because then you can enact that change locally. I also think affinity groups for white folks to really create a culture, and I have to give credit. Resmaa Menakem talks about creating a culture, right? Creating a culture of, and what I will say, a culture of liberation, right? A culture of, you can also say, of anti-racism, where as white folks, you have a group of white people that you're getting together with on a regular basis, talking about these things that are highly uncomfortable. And I think it also is about building the resilience, and I don't mean resilience in terms of pushing your way through, not the traditional sense of resilience. I'm talking about expanding capacity to hold these conversations, expanding capacity, because so much of what, racism, white supremacy has done, I think it's shrunk the capacity of especially white folks. Right. So it's even saying the word racism, it's like sends into like a high stress state. And, you know, it's like, okay, oh, who are you?
Right.
Like, what happened? Like, and so the capacity, we need to expand the capacity. I think you need to expand, white folks who are listening, expand the capacity to hold these conversations, because being able to expand the capacity means like you're not going to disappear, because that's what's happened. It's like, you know, folks disappear. It's like because racism does benefit white people. It might take away your humanity. It might also makes you disconnected from others and creates all these shadows. But at the base, it creates comfort, perceived comfort, and real tangible comfort and safety.
Yeah.
Quote unquote. Right?
Yeah.
And
it's
so,
yeah, but what's comfortable is not always what's good or healthy or what's best, right? So we need to move from that. I'm sorry, Adrian?
This weaving of the new world that you're talking about, I want to also talk about what does this new world look like for the parents and toward their kids, because here's the thing that we've learned is that racism is taught. You know, it goes down through the generational chains. So what can parents do, particularly with kids who are interested, who are learning about this? They're in a different era now where this is something that's happening every single day. What can parents do when it comes to teaching their children about what we're just talking about today? Should these conversations happen? How frequently should they be happening? What can be the icebreaker for a parent?
So what I think is that for white parents, basically, majority of Black parents have to talk to their kids at a very young age about racism. So, and I read a story last year of this journalist who had to talk to her 2-year-old about, like a 2.5-year-old about racism, and it broke her heart. She shared about how it broke her heart. So I think because it's in so much in everything, it's woven into everything, we do need to have those conversations. However, we don't want our kids to be traumatized, right? Traumatized because they don't have all the faculties to process. However, they can start learning real history instead of like fake history. So last year in my son's preschool, it was like I think Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday was coming up, and I was like, oh, so what are you doing for Martin Luther King Jr.'s birthday? And I'm like, nothing. Mind you, I live in a very liberal, place, and I was like, nothing, really? I was like, and they're like, oh, we think the kids are too young for that. And I was like, well, you're having them paint pictures of for President's Day, let's say you're going to have them paint pictures of or draw pictures of Lincoln or learn about a president or but they're not necessarily learning about the complicated history. So why can't they learn about Martin Luther King as a civil rights leader? And that's all they need to know. He was a civil rights leader and he was all about equality for all. They're 2 years old, right? And they did do it. I'm glad that they did, but I know there's many other places that probably wouldn't. And so those are just small examples of how we can start having those conversations. But I think we can't be afraid of those conversations. We can't start those conversations too late, because a lot of what is happening now is because, especially in America, we're not teaching kids real history. We're not teaching them. It's like this colonized history, right? It's a very colonized history of the indigenous people, they we paid for the land. You learn all these things that are not true. They're frankly, they're lies.
Yeah.
You know,
Well,
yeah, I agree on that. I think that just to kind of to go off of that, with the Emancipation Proclamation with Abraham Lincoln, a lot of people don't know this. Abraham Lincoln didn't just say, "Hey, I want to free slaves." No, he was against it at first. Frederick Douglass talked to him about the benefits of having these black men fight for their freedom. And with that, he was able to convince him of, okay, maybe I should consider this. But see, that's not taught in history, right? It's taught as Abraham Lincoln freed the slaves. Right? They don't talk about that. So I'm glad you brought that up, Thérèse.
And they also don't talk about how he also said, Abraham Lincoln also said that the African enslaved people are actually not fully human. He's like, this, he even said that, even after quote unquote freeing them, which is not what truly happened, he was still very pro enslavement. He wasn't pro liberation. He just did it at the time because it benefited him, right? He signed that, and because it benefited him, not truly because, oh, I believe in equality and liberation and of all.
And that's what we need to move away from. This, the reason for doing things, right? What our priorities are. We need to move away from making decisions and choices just based on certain people benefiting. How does that make sense?
Yeah.
It doesn't even make sense.
We have a comment here from Wendy, actually. I want to share this with you guys. We'll put it up here. Wendy says, I think that what the last 4 years brought to the surface was that racism wasn't diminishing. It was well hidden. Yes. Reality is now in front and center and in the open, and the work is just starting. Oh. Thank you, Wendy.
And yes, you are so right. It's just starting.
It's just starting. And that's, right before we started recording, what I was saying was that we're passing the baton. And we're passing the baton until we no longer have to pass that baton. Mm-hmm. So I think people want to check this off. Oh, this is my 2021 goal. I'm like laughing, I'm like laughing. Okay, that's your 2020. It's not your 2021 goal. It is your lifetime work, and you will pass on that baton to your children, and they will pass it on to their children. Hopefully it stops there, but they will keep on passing it on until it is completely done, until we are all liberated.
Yeah,
that's what it is. And it's like, it's a long haul. So we're not preparing for a sprint. We're training for a marathon, which is why I want to go back and just really stress around building our capacity. And there are so many ways to do that, but building our capacity to hold these conversations. Yes. And I think one of the ways that we can do that is through our stress responses, being really tuned into it.
Wow.
To our stress responses, is that what you said,
mm-hmm.
sir?
Yeah. Yes.
Mm-hmm. Building our capacity, yeah.
You said this was a lifetime goal, a life of focusing on this, right? Not a 2021 goal, not a 22. And I'm just going to say this, I got to do this. This is when I started waving my towel here, because I said it was going to heat up. And at that point, that phrase, lifetime goal. And I want to go back and stress that, because for everyone that's listening today, this is, like Thérèse mentioned, this is the long haul. We're in this is a marathon. And it takes each person having these conversations. So I want to thank you, Thérèse, for saying that, because it's not an overnight fix. I want people to realize that, right? Is going to.
And I want to stress that we are all in this together.
Absolutely.
We are all connected.
Yeah.
We are all affected by all of this. As much as, there may be people that don't want to believe that or see that, but it's the truth.
Yeah, and it's obviously varying degrees, but I just say an entry point is like sharing this conversation with people you care about. Like literally press the share button. And I would say, of course, we can get into these like Facebook wars and going back and forth, share it. And at the same time, take the conversation off of Facebook, meet on Zoom, meet in a place that's COVID safe, in a park distance, and have these conversations with an open heart, with the intention of liberation for all, right? Mm-hmm. With that intention for liberation for all. Because then it's like, okay, if that's our intention, then we have to then take action that lead us in that direction.
Oh, beautifully said, Thérèse.
We have this from Susan Free. She says, "Thank you for all this very important, for this very important." Thank you, Susan. Yeah, wonderful.
Hi, Susan.
So why don't we have Susan here with us? She was from the Ford Institute as well. All these beautiful people that we met at the Ford Institute. Yeah.
Yeah, use it as a catalyst for a conversation, for and not just one time, a sustained conversation. How often are you going to get together with your affinity group? What books are you going to read? And I really invite folks to read books that are written by BIPOC people, Black, Indigenous people of color, because it truly is our experience. And I think it's important to read many different authors, and also take classes. Take classes where you can be held accountable and do some. Yeah, you need to be held accountable, not just like, oh, okay, we're gonna, because sometimes people are like, oh, I'm gonna do a book club. I did this book and I'm done. I'm like, and those are sometimes it's the people that will harm the most, because they think they've done the work, and they haven't. It hasn't gone in a deeper, much deeper. It's very surface, and then it hasn't gone deeper. And it needs to go deeper. And it's not just one class, it's really making it a consistent part of the work, including dismantling, being involved in your local and of course, national government. And also, I think keeping an eye on what's going on throughout the world, because so much, we're all interconnected, like Michelle says, and a threat to liberation anywhere is a threat to liberation everywhere. Someone said that quote. I don't recall who, but.
Wow, this is a really big deal.
I think that's Martin Luther King who said that. But a threat to freedom.
Yeah.
Anywhere is a threat to freedom everywhere.
I love that quote. You mentioned books. There's a book by James Baldwin called The Fire Next Time. And that's a good one for people to read. It's a very thin book, and the way that he talks is so eloquent. And he was good friends with Maya Angelou. And in the first part of that book, he's writing a letter to his nephew. And he's actually talking about a little bit of the intergenerational trauma that you mentioned today, of seeing his brother smile, but seeing the sadness behind the smile. Hearing his brother laugh, but hearing also to the cries behind the laugh. And so these are kind of the books that people should read and get an understanding of what people experienced then. It's still happening now. So thank you, Thérèse, for bringing that up about the books and accountability. That's why I want the accountability is so important for people to be held accountable for not what they're reading, but how they are retaining it and how they are applying it with their conversations.
Well, that's what
are you embodying liberation? Are you embodying these practices? Are you embodying it?
That's the accountability piece that needs to be there. Are you embodying it?
That's a powerful question. question of the day. Are you embodying it?
We'll leave our audience with that question.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And how will you embody it if you're not? Because I think most people are not. Because they'll say, no, I'm not. Well, what are for some steps? And I think we've left a lot of golden nuggets throughout this of what you can start to do. So if you need to rewatch this and say, okay, let me make a list of what I can do.
Yeah.
What tangible steps.
What really came clear to me was building capacity and, building a culture of liberation, anti-racism, which is expanding capacity to do that. And in order for us to do that, we need to be taking care of self, resting, really connecting with self and our own humanity so that we can show up for others and expand capacity. Yeah, this is what Oprah's talking about when Oprah says, fill your own cup, have your own cup overflowing so that you can then help others, right? Yeah.
Yeah, doing the work. Doing the work. To show up to it's not easy work. Like, I don't want to be like, oh, it's going to be a day at a spa. It's not a day at the spa. It's not a day at the spa. It's going to be hard work, and the hardest work we're doing in this lifetime. However, it is healing intergenerationally, because the work, last thing I'll say, when we are this work is actually intergenerational healing, right? For white folks, dismantling this is intergenerational healing. It heals your lineage backwards and it heals forwards. So in the indigenous traditions, we believe it heals 7 generations back and 7 generations forward.
Wow.
So doing this work, this is the intergenerational healing work. This dismantling work. But I don't want to glamorize it at all. It's going to be difficult, but anything that's worthwhile has, can be difficult. Not everything, but a lot of things that are worthwhile. We have to put
most things are.
Some elbow grease.
Yes.
Well, this is saying that this is saying that if you do it as easy, your life will be hard. If you do it as hard, your life will become easier. And I think that this whole work that you're talking about doing is absolutely going to be hard work. But here's the thing: we need to do it, all of us, right? And to have understanding. I think the biggest thing is that people have misunderstandings, and if you learn to understand what you don't know, not try to fix it, but try to understand it, have the conversations, as Thérèse mentioned, and to do those action steps that she talked about. For our audience listening today, you're going to do some healing on your side too, which can pass down through your generation. So be the change maker, be that person that creates the social change. If you're asking the question, what can I do? What can I do? Watch this video.
Share it. Share it.
Share it.
This video. Yeah, share it. And just back to what you were saying, that it is work and it's not easy. However, the gift is freedom.
For all.
Freedom for all. Yeah. That's gotta be worth it.
You don't have your, what else do you have, right? That's the thing, it's freedom.
Freedom. Much love to you, beautiful Thérèse and Adrian and our audience. It's just been such a incredible conversation tonight. Wow.
Powerful.
Yeah. Thank you, Thérèse, for having the courage and the capacity to have this conversation.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's always lovely to connect with you, Michelle and Adrian. It's just so cool. I'm glad we finally got to connect, because Michelle has always been like, you gotta meet Adrian. And I'm so glad that we finally connected.
I'm glad.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
you're
I
doing
knew the two
some
of you.
beautiful stuff in the world, both of you. So this is wonderful.
You are. Wow. I am absolutely elated. I mean, I've learned, like, even myself, me, a black guy, I was taking notes. If you saw me looking down, I was like, okay, nope, did not know that one. Okay. And this is part of the learning process. So, to close things out for our audience today, it's been absolutely wonderful time. As Thérèse mentioned, go back, watch this video, replay it, share it with everyone you know, share it with people who you think they need to watch it, because people need to see it.
Yeah, they do.
So we will see everyone on our next show. But for now, remember, it's about dismantling. It's about embracing the discomforts of those tough conversations, doing the work, as Thérèse has said. And I also encourage you guys to go and look at Thérèse and what she's doing. Go to her social media pages, support her the best way you can. And I think she's got a podcast out too called the Embodied Black Girl podcast.
Yeah.
And to listen to that. And if you want to support, that's how you do it. You go and support, listen to what she's saying, and share it with the world. Thank you so much, Thérèse. You've been absolutely wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you both.
All right. Goodbye, everyone. We're going to end this off.
Okay. Good night, everyone.
Good
Bye.
night.